Well, welcome back to the channel. Today we're gonna have a little fun. I'm gonna teach you how to make a simple, easy compost toilet. I know it sounds kind of gross, but it's actually not. We've been using one in the cabin for a couple of years now. Okay, supplies that we're gonna need for building the compost toilet. We're gonna need a 4x4. We're going to need some 3/4 inch, and I cut these 7 3/8 inch wide on the mill, so I can use 2 per side, get me the right height. And then for the top, the same. You're going to need, you may or may not want a toilet seat. You could use some blue board and put a hole in it, either or, but that was only $8 at Walmart. Some hinges. We like putting the Simple Truth compostable bags, kitchen bags, 13-gallon, in our 5-gallon bucket. Helps keep the bucket clean. We don't have to use quite as much water to clean things up afterwards. And yes, I know that it says commercially compostable only. However, in our soil up here, once we bury it like you would, you know, in our household, I've found that after a year they're completely gone, because I've actually tested it and dug in just to make sure they are composting. Obviously a pencil, a tape measure, a square, a skill saw, a drill, and some screws, which I have sitting over on the other table. And we'll get busy. You can tell it is quite cold out here this morning. That's all frost. So we'll get to this. So the idea behind the compost toilet is you make it where it is roughly 24 inches deep. And what I mean that is from the front to the back. 24 inches deep from the front to the back. Then about 22.5 inches wide. That's from outside of 4x4 to outside of 4x4. And then it's going to be 14 3/4 inches high, which will fit a 5-gallon bucket just under the lid. Put a wooden lid over the top of it. It's on hinges so you can open it, and then of course you cut your hole and affix your toilet seat to that. We also use pine shavings, the same kind of shavings you would get for your pet bedding. We'll get a bag of that, and it lasts quite a long time. I've had one half bag that I've just myself been using for 2 months now, and there's still enough in there for another month. So what we do is, all said and done, you put your 5-gallon bucket inside. We put the compostable bag in there, put a 16-ounce plastic cup full of sawdust in the bottom of the bag, and then as you use it, you sprinkle sawdust over the top of it. And this helps reduce the smell, helps absorb any of the moisture, and adds a little bit of carbon-based product to help with the composting. And then you use it till it gets about full. And then once it's full, obviously I take it down and bury it into a hole that I pre-dig, and nature does its thing afterwards. We do keep a little bit of spray available, so we do spray once in a while to alleviate any smell at all. I have seen some people take a small computer fan and drill a hole in the back side and wire it in on a 12-volt system and run the fan with an exhaust vent outside, which helps air circulation go through. But unfortunately, because I'm off grid, I would have to run the generator non-stop for that because my battery system won't support it long enough at this time. And I apologize, right now I got a generator running in the background so I can run the skill saw to make my several cuts that I need to make before we start assembling. So let's get on with the assembly of this item. So I have a speed square here, and you can see on it, it has a notch for 2 inches because I have a true 4x4. What I want to do is mark the length of the 4x4 at 2 inches. And because it's cold, my pencil's not working very well. So we're going to mark 2 sides. And as you can see, I put a line all the way down it at 2 inches on both sides. The very end of that's a little wobbly, but it'll suffice for what we need. This is one of my first 4x4s that I milled. We're going to cut this notch out so you have a notch that looks similar to this in the board. And we're going to then affix our 3/4 inch stock to the inside on both sides, and that'll make our wall, so we'll have a nice pretty edge on the outside. And as you can see, what I did is I set the depth of my skill saw to 2 inches. So when I cut, it's just going to go the depth that I want. Okay, once we get the cut, we take it out. Obviously we have a 2x2 we can use for some shelving later date, as maybe a ledger for some shelving. That'll go over there. We have this nice channel. Yeah, there's a little bit of a wiggle in there, but it's not going to matter too much. Next thing I'm going to have to do is square up my ends, because when I mill the lumber, I cut my logs before I mill them for 8 foot. I cut them at 8'4", because I know that when I fell the trees they weren't 90 degrees. So I'll square off one end so it's nice and flat. Get that cut, and then we'll measure up from there. Required distance. There's the first corner. As you can see, the 1/4 inch stock will fit right in like that. Going this way, 2 of those will fill it up. So let's get the rest of them cut. Need a total of 4.
Okay, so there's my leftover. I've got enough for at least one more, possibly two. Yeah, I can do two more legs, so I could do half another one, so we'll save those in case I need a third compost toilet. This one's going to go up in the log cabin for those dark snowy nights. And I have my four legs. I'll sit like that. And that will be up, make our box. So let's cut the flat stock. So remember I said the depth from front to back is 24 inches outside to outside, which is what I've got that sitting at. So the inside distance is going to be 20 inches. So we will cut our flat stock, two of them, or actually four of them, because each side at 20 inches long. It'll take two flat stock, or two of the 3/4 inch thick boards to do one side on each. So again, inside depth is 20 inches, outside from 4x to 4x4 is 24 inches. Batteries keep running low on me, so you can see I screwed in the first one, and the second one I've got sitting there getting ready to screw in. I put 3 per board because they're so wide. I want to do the sides first before I measure the front depth, because I got to account for the thickness of the boards. So for the sides, because like I said, we had to account for that, the boards are 17 inches long. And screw in this last one, but there you can see is the exterior of the box. The bucket will go in here, and then we'll have a lid on it. So let's get this last one screwed in. And there we have our box, nice and square. It's flat on the top, a little bit of a lip there, but that's okay. And that will fit a bucket in it. We'll obviously take the sander and sand down some of the rough spots, and then we'll put some sealant on it once the sun heats it up and gets rid of any of the residual ice that's on the boards. We'll go from there. So what we're going to do next is we're going to get a board that goes back here across, and that's from outside edge to outside edge, which is going to be what we put our hinges to. So it'll roughly look like that. Roughly look like that. We'll have to rip this down just a little bit because it's a little bit too wide, because obviously your toilet seat is going to come back a ways, so it's missing the front of the thing. So I'll mark where that toilet seat's going to be. That's where I'll rip that board lengthwise, so it does not interfere with the hinges in the next board. So when measuring out where to put the seat exactly, you want to put your bucket underneath, centered as far forward as you can. Put your seat on it so you have good room around it. As you can see, I got a little bit of space in the back. I can come forward. I got space in the front. It's centered in there. And then at that point in time, what I'm going to do is mark the back of where those will attach, and then I'm going to come back another inch, so when I drill the holes I got enough meat in the wood to hold the seat in place, and the hinges will be back here, and this is where the cut will be for the rib. So let's get it done. So as you can see, I put the hinges on. It will open right there. All these will be connected together. Obviously you have to put a small piece in to get the right depth, so I ripped one down to 2 3/4 inches. And then what I will do underneath is one of my scrap boards that I've got will actually be cut and affixed underneath like so. One, it helps keep the bucket centered, because when you put it down it keeps the bucket from going left to right, but it also ties all three of these boards together, because when you cut the hole it makes a little bit of, you know, it's a little bit weak in there. So we'll do that. None of these are attached, they're just sitting there. Obviously this is an older bucket, I use it to carry gravel with. I'm just using it for measurements, but that's how that goes. So what I got to do now is measure from the front edge of the box underneath there to this back edge here, so I know how far to cut this board, which will affix like that on the bottom side. And then we'll mount the toilet. I've already marked the hole spots for the toilet holders. Then we'll mark the inside and cut the center out after these are on, and then it'll be done, except for some sanding and putting some sealant on it once the sun dries it out a little bit more from ice. So we got a beautiful day today to do this. Sun's working on it. It's already, all the ice is gone off of it, so it's coming right along. Let me get to some measurements and get this interior board hooked up. So as you can see what I'm talking about, those boards are in there. It keeps the bucket from going left and right too much, so it'll keep it centered with the seat. That will hold the other ones in place. So what we do now is we put the little one on, screw it into these two. These are 2 3/4 inch wide. Screw them on, and then we'll put the big one on and screw it just on the tips here, and no other screws hold it, and then you got a lid that opens up just like so. Let's put the other little one on. Got those two opening up, and I can go in with nippers and nip these off. Really not a big deal, they're pointing down, but I can nip those off to where they're a lot more flush with the wood, and put the final piece on. you go, it's all on there. We now have a lid. Goes down over the bucket. Next thing will be to do is drill the holes for the toilet seat, put that on temporarily, mark our circle from the interior. It's a little bit wider than what the seat is, and we'll cut that, leave it off. We'll get the sander going, sand all this down, and once it sits out in the sun a little bit longer, we'll get a layer of varnish on it. So I've got the seat temporarily attached. So we want to come in and scribe a circle around. As you can tell, I'm not going straight down, I'm going in at an angle. I want enough room around it that the wood's not straight with the seat. And that looks good. It'll be this outer edge. So now I'll get my Sawzall and I'll drill a couple of holes on the edge to give me a spot to start with. And I'll take my Sawzall and I'll cut this out. Here we have the hole. I got to trim it up just a little bit right here, so you can see the bucket's in there. The bucket's fitting. It's open. The seat will obviously come in a little bit, and then with the plastic bag going over the top, it'll be just fine. It'll be just perfect. Is what I did with my last one is I used this indoor-outdoor spar urethane on it. I've got one coat on the top, a little bit on the sides. It adds just a little bit of sealant to the wood, but it cleans up pretty nice and it looks good. That beetle-killed spruce that I mill up, this one doesn't have all the blue in it, but it's good. There we go. All we got to do is let it dry, affix the toilet seat, and then this one can go up to the log cabin and be up there. Just got to get a new bucket, because I don't want to use my old dirt bucket for it, so I'll get a new bucket to put in there along with the bag and sawdust. There you go. This is a perfect little compost toilet. You could put it in the back of a like a bus, an old school bus that's been modified, a tiny home like we have, where you just don't have a septic system, and on those dark, cold nights when you don't want to take the trip to the outhouse, you've got something that you can utilize indoors until it's daylight or it warms up a little bit, and you're breaking down your waste into compost, which is very nutrient for the soil eventually. like I said, those bags that I use, I've already tested them here in our Alaska soil where I'm at, and they break down. They're gone within a year and leave behind it some good soil. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it was informational. I hope this video was informational to you. I want at this time to wish everyone a safe holiday season, because we're coming up on Thanksgiving pretty soon. Halloween is right around the corner. This video will post in November, so it'll be almost Thanksgiving time, or at least a week or so away from it. Have a good holiday season, good Christmas, good New Year's, and I will catch you on the next video. God bless and hugs. And I will leave you with just a little bit of short video of an animal I caught on camera on one of my game cameras out in the back part of the property.